I never planned to go back to Waverly Hill Elementary. Not after what happened in 5th grade. Not after they shut down the whole place and slapped a chain on the front gate like that could erase everything. But when my old friend Dylan texted me out of nowhere, asking ever wonder what's left inside, I hesitated just a second too long before saying yes. We were 24 now, adults, technically, but when we met up at the edge of the woods behind the school, just like we used to when we were kids, we instantly slipped back into the adolescent stupid bravery, the we're untouchable kind. That arrogance you only get once in life before life shows you you're not. The building still stood, sagging under time and neglect. Vines clawed at the brick walls and windows yawned empty, like sockets with the eyes rotted out. The chain on the front gate snapped, maybe by looters, or maybe, like Dylan said with a nervous laugh, something let itself out. We slipped in through a side door where the lock had rusted away. The air inside was suffocating. It's hot, stale, and laced with mold. Our footsteps echoed far too loud in the halls as if something was listening. If you've ever been in a place that used to be filled with life, laughter, and shouting, chaos, and is now just still, then you know that silence feels wrong. I hadn't been back since Mrs. Holcomb disappeared. 5th grade. She was the one who always looked too serious for an elementary school, always staring out the window during recess like she was waiting for something. The rumor back then was that she hung herself in the music room. We dared each other to peek in afterward, but the whole wing was sealed off with caution tape. Then a few months later, the school closed, just like that. We found the music room. The tape was gone, but the door stuck like it hadn't been open in years. When Dylan shoved it with his shoulder, it gave away with a groan that sounded way too human. Everything was coated in dust. The blackboard still had a lesson, half written in chalk. Musical notes frozen mid-melody. A piano in the corner had collapsed on one side, keys warped and yellow like rotten teeth. That's when I noticed something. The dust on the far side of the room had been disturbed. There were footprints, bare, small. It looked like children's. "I don't like this," I muttered. Dylan was already moving toward the closet at the back. It had always been locked when we were kids. Now, it hung slightly ajar. "Dude, seriously, don't..." But when he opened it, there was nothing inside. Just an empty chair and a long scratch marks on the wall behind it. Then out of nowhere, the temperature dropped. I'm not saying that metaphorically, it physically dropped. I saw my breath. So did Dylan. "Is that music?" he whispered. I strained to listen. A soft, slow piano melody drifted through the air. Impossible. The piano in the room was broken. The second one was coming from down the hall. We shouldn't have followed it, but you know how horror stories go. Curiosity doesn't kill you, it damns you. We moved into the hallway. Following the music through the dark, it led us into the basement stairwell, the one every kid was afraid of. The janitor had kept his office down there. Rumors said he was fired for something bad. No one ever knew that. Just that he was gone, and the door had been bolted shut ever since, except now it was wide open. We went down. The music got louder, clearer, a waltz, almost, gentle and sorrowful. We reached the bottom. The lights didn't work, so we used our phone flashlights. The basement wasn't empty. Desks, dozens of them, all kid-sized, all facing a chalkboard with the words, "Quiet," or "He hears," written over and over in different handwriting. And in the corner was a man. No, a shape like a man. Too tall, limbs too long, wearing what looked like a custodian's uniform, soaked black with rot. His head was tilted at an impossible angle, like it had snapped and never healed. And in his hands, God help me, was a yardstick. The old kind, the kind teachers used to slam on desks. Wasn't moving. Dylan grabbed my arm. Back away. Slowly. We turned. The door at the top of the stairs slammed shut, and then the piano stopped. That thing moved. What followed is a blur of panic and chaos. We ran, tripping over desks, or bones, yes. bones and screaming for each other in the dark. I swear I felt fingers brush the back of my neck as I climbed the stairs. I didn't look back. I burst out of the building into nightfall. Dylan threw up. I couldn't breathe. We didn't speak, we just ran. I never saw him again after that night. His number stopped working. His social media went dark. I tried going to his apartment, but someone else lived there. Said they never heard of him. I checked online too, about Waverly Hill. Turns out, Mrs. Holcomb wasn't the only disappearance. 3 kids went missing during the last year the school was open, all from the same class, all said to be misbehaving before they vanished. The janitor? Fired for locking a student in a supply closet as punishment. That kid was never found. I don't know what's in the basement, or if it's still there, but I have dreams, sometimes, of desks lined up in the dark, of a piano playing softly while children cry, and of a voice whispering behind me, quiet, or he hears. Edit. Stop messaging me to go back and live stream it. I'm never stepping foot in that place again. If you Google Caltech Middle School, you won't find anything. No pictures, no records, not even an address. Ask anyone in the nearby town about it and they'll shrug, claim they never heard of it, even the locals and even my own mother. But I went there for 2 years and I remember everything. At least I think I do. I was 13 when my family moved to a small town in upstate New York. One of those places where Main Street is just a hardware store, a diner, and a gas station. We moved into a fixer-upper on the edge of town, near the woods, and I wasn't thrilled. The school year had already started, and the district told us I'd been placed at Caltech Middle School. No bus came. My mom dropped me off each morning down an old gravel road where a weathered wooden sign simply read, CL School. The building was set back in the thicket of trees, massive ancient oaks that seemed to lean forward like they were trying to hide the place. The school was strange. Old, but not run down. Everything was too quiet. There were no bells, no PA system, and no fire drills. The classroom had slate blackboards instead of whiteboards. The windows were covered in wire mesh, not to keep people out, but to keep us in. There were only a few dozen students total, and no one ever transferred in or out. No one talked about home or the weekend or birthdays. It was like our lives only existed in those walls. My homeroom teacher, Mr. Harlow, never blinked. He wore the same gray sweater every day, regardless of weather. If you spoke out of turn, he'd just stop teaching and stare. Not angry, not disappointed, he'd just stare. Once, a kid named Aaron giggled during quiet reading. Mr. Harlow walked over to him and said nothing. He tapped his desk with a small silver bell, a soft ding. Aaron never came back. When I asked about him, the other kids pretended they didn't know who I was talking about. Another time, a girl named Lacey stood up during lunch and said, in a voice that wasn't hers,
"There's something in those walls."
Then she collapsed. She was gone by the next period. I started keeping a journal, writing everything down, every odd lesson, every missing student, every time the lights flickered in unison, no matter the room. One night I snuck out of the house with a flashlight and went back to the school. I don't know why, some part of me needed to see if it was real. The front doors were unlocked. Inside, the halls were lit by weak flickering bulbs. My footsteps echoed too loudly. The school felt different at night. It seemed larger and angrier. I crept down the east wing, the one with the locked doors we were told to never open. One door was ajar. Inside was a room full of desks, but not modern ones. These were ancient, wooden, inkwells, carved initials, cobwebs. But the air wasn't dusty. It smelled like wet soil and candle wax, and every desk had a book in it, handwritten, leather-bound. I opened one. It was my journal. Every entry I'd written, word for word, except I never brought it to school. And on the last page, one line, written in red ink, "You're waking up. Don't." I turned to leave, but the hallway was gone. I mean, physically gone. Where there should have been a door, there was just brick, fresh mortar. I panicked, ran back toward the lobby. More turns than I remembered, more stairs than should exist. Every hallway looked the same. I started seeing things, faces in windows, hands pulling back from around corners. I ended up in the gymnasium, but it was full. Hundreds of students, silent, standing in rows, all facing the same direction, all wrong. Their limbs were bent at angles that shouldn't exist. Some had mouths stitched shut, some were missing eyes, but I could feel them watching me. At the front of the room was Mr. Harlow, but not like before. He was taller now. His skin stretched too tightly over his skull. His mouth opened far wider than it should have, and he spoke, not with words, but into my head. Learning is forever. You do not graduate. You do not leave. You are ours. I don't remember how I escaped. I just remembered waking up in bed, gasping. My sheets were soaked with sweat. I ran downstairs and asked my mom why she never picked me up from school the past week. She blinked at me and said, "Honey, you've been homeschooled for 2 years." I tried to prove it. I found a gravel road, but there's no sign. No building, no path, just trees. I asked around. No one remembers Caltech, not even my old classmate's name. I thought I was going crazy until last week. Someone slipped a note under my door. It was written in red ink. "The bell rings soon. Get ready to return." I started hearing it yesterday. The soft ding of a silver bell, always from the next room. Never when I look directly. It's getting closer. If I disappear, don't come looking for me, because Caltech never lets you leave twice. Let me start by saying, I know what I saw. I don't care what the county records say. I don't care what Google Maps shows. I don't care what the official story says. Old Briarwood High was demolished in 1997 after a fire. I was there last week. I walked its halls. I heard the screams. And I saw what's still in room 313. Briarwood was always a local legend. Everyone in town grew up hearing the stories. The fire that gutted the East Wing. The teachers that died trying to save students. The girl who jumped from the library window. The janitor who locked kids in the basement and cleaned them up when no one came looking. The usual urban legend crap. But here's the thing. No one older than 30 ever talks about it. You ask, they just go quiet. Like they just want to forget something. Like their silence is keeping something buried. And for a while, I believed it had all been turned down like they said. Until a week ago, when I went on a hike in the woods behind the industrial park, I stumbled onto something impossible. A chain link fence, overgrown, rusted, a gap torn wide open, and behind it, old bearwood. It was still standing, not even boarded up. The brick was blackened in places, the windows either smashed or covered in grime. The air smelled like mildew and something sweeter, sickly like rotten fruit or dead flowers. I should have left, but I didn't. I had my camera, and I was curious. That's how horror stories always start, right? The front doors were unlocked. Inside it was silent. No birds, no wind, no distant highway, just this heavy, wet silence, like the school was underwater. The walls were lined with old flyers, dances, yearbook photos, even a "Say No to Drugs" poster that looked like it hadn't aged a day. There was no dust, no graffiti, no decay, like time stopped here. I walked toward the main office, my boots squeaking on the floor, and then the intercom crackled. Just a single, static-laced word.
Late.
My blood froze. There was no power. I checked the breaker box by the entrance, dead, and yet the intercom had spoken. I turned to leave, but the doors were gone. Literally gone. Just more hallway where the entrance had been. I ran back, heart racing. Every hallway twisted, reshaped, impossible geometry. Windows looking out into pitch blackness. Classrooms where the desks faced the walls, not the chalkboards. I tried my phone, no signal, no clock, no time. My watch stopped at 3:13 p.m. Then came the bell. Not a regular school bell, a low booming chime, like a church bell underwater. My ears popped, the lights flickered, and from somewhere deep in the school something moved. I ran. down the east wing, past rooms labeled with names like retention, correction, and obedience. I found a classroom with a shattered window and climbed out, only to land in another hallway. The school wouldn't let me leave. That's when I saw the first one. A student, or what was left of one. Thin, unnaturally tall. Skin stretched too tight, eyes completely black, mouth soon shut with wire, yet gasping like it was screaming. It pointed at me, then vanished. And the lights went out. I stumbled forward, hands brushing the wall, heart pounding. Eventually, I found a library. Inside, hundreds of desks, all facing inward, all occupied, not by people but by shapes, wrapped in old uniforms, hair matted, fingers twitching, as if they'd been sitting there for years, forced to study, to stay. Voice filled the room. You don't get to leave class early. It wasn't angry, it was disappointed, and behind me I felt the breath on my neck. I turned and saw a figure in an old teacher's outfit, face entirely blank, no eyes, no mouth, just smooth skin, like wax melted over bone. In its hand, a ruler, 7 feet long, cracked and blood-stained. It slammed it down. I blacked out. I woke up in room 313, strapped to a chair, facing a wall where dozens of photographs were pinned. There were all of me. Me in middle school, me at 15, me 2 weeks ago. The corner of the room was a desk, and on that desk a small bell, silver, untarnished, the kind they used to call for the teacher's attention. Beside it, a single piece of paper. One sentence. Class is forever. Obey or become lesson. I ran. Don't ask me how. I don't remember it clearly. I just ran, hallway after hallway, until I found a stairwell. When I burst through a door, it was suddenly daylight. I was in the woods again. My camera was gone. My phone said 6:44 p.m. 2 days had passed. I went back to the fence. It wasn't there. Just trees, a dirt path, and no building. I drove straight to the county records office, asked for info on Briarwood. They said, "You mean the supermarket? Briarwood Grocery was built there in '98. I showed them my photos. They were blank. White, static, no school, no rooms, no faces, just white noise. But the worst part, it's not over. Because every night since then, I've been hearing the bell again. Not in my head, from my closet. And each morning, a new sentence is written on my bathroom mirror. You're late. Room 313 is waiting. I think I brought something back. I think it wants more students. And soon, I think I won't be able to stop it. Hey guys, 30-second segment here. So, yeah, it's me. Now, I'm hoping that my new microphone, which is coming by the way, can make the videos more better. And if you have any comments, any criticism, please put it down because I'm new to this. And yeah, subscribe and all that. Yeah, thanks.